Who is the friend of Jonathan Swift who wrote a set of 5 verses on Gulliver's Travels? Ans. Alexander Pope is the friend of Jonathan Swift who wrote a set of 5 verses on Gulliver's Travels. Q. Which literary work has been referred to as a forerunner of the modern novel? Ans. Gulliver's Travels is the literary work that has been called a forerunner of the modern novel. Q. What is the first major theme addressed in Gulliver's Travels? Ans. The first major theme addressed in Gulliver's Travels is a satirical view of the state of European government, as well as the petty differences between religions. Q. How did British novelist and journalist William Makepeace Thackeray describe Jonathan Swift's work? Ans. William Makepeace Thackeray described Jonathan Swift's work as blasphemous. Q. In Gulliver's Travels, what do the Big Endians represent? Ans. In Gulliver's Travels, the Big Endians represent Catholics. Q. What kind of pet was present in the farmer's home in Brobdingnag? Ans. In the farmer's home in Brobdingnag, there was a cat as a pet. Q. In a quote from Gulliver's Travels, what does the term littleness refer to? Ans. In the quote, I winked at my own littleness, as people do at their own faults. The term littleness refers to personal shortcomings or flaws. Q. What are the different labels applied to Gulliver's Travels in terms of its genre? Ans. Gulliver's Travels has been labeled as a Menippean satire, a children's story, and proto-science fiction. Q. What is the full title of Gulliver's Travels? Ans. The full title of Gulliver's Travels is Travels into Several Remote Nations of the World. In 4 parts. By Lemuel Gulliver, first a surgeon, and then a captain of several ships. Q. Besides satirizing human nature, what other literary subgenre does Gulliver's Travels satirize? Ans. Gulliver's Travels satirizes the traveler's tales literary subgenre, in addition to its commentary on human nature. Q. What is the main focus of the book Gulliver's Travels in terms of an individual's experience in societies where they don't belong? A. The main focus of the book Gulliver's Travels is on an individual's repeated failures to integrate into societies to which he does not belong. Q. During which period do the adventures in Gulliver's Travels take place? A. The adventures in Gulliver's Travels take place between May 4, 1699, and December 5, 1715. Q. Between which years does the fictional main character, Lemuel Gulliver, readjust to life in England? A. Lemuel Gulliver readjusts to life in England between the years 1715 and 1720. Q. In Laputa and Balnibarbi, what kind of people does Gulliver encounter? A. In Laputa and Balnibarbi, Gulliver finds himself among people who are queer in one way or another. Q. What is Jonathan Swift's most well-known full-length work? A. Jonathan Swift's most well-known full-length work is Gulliver's Travels. Q. Why did Jonathan Swift claim to have written Gulliver's Travels? A. Jonathan Swift claimed that he wrote Gulliver's Travels to vex the world rather than divert it. Q. Which genre or genres does the book Gulliver's Travels belong to? A. The book Gulliver's Travels belongs to the genres of satire and fantasy. Q. Who was the publisher of Gulliver's Travels? A. The publisher of Gulliver's Travels was Benjamin Mott. Q. What is the second major theme explored in Gulliver's Travels? A. The second major theme of Gulliver's Travels is an inquiry into whether men are inherently corrupt or whether they become corrupted. Q. Who commented that the book Gulliver's Travels is universally read, from the Cabinet Council to the nursery? A. English dramatist John Gay remarked that the book Gulliver's Travels is universally read, from the Cabinet Council to the nursery. Q. In Robert McCrum's 2015 selection list of the 100 best novels of all time, how is Gulliver's Travels described? A. Gulliver's Travels is described as a satirical masterpiece. Q. In Part 1, A Voyage to Lilliput, what does the short preamble at the beginning of the story outline? A. The short preamble at the beginning of the story outlines Lemuel Gulliver's life and history before his voyages. Q. Does Lemuel Gulliver become a favorite of the Lilliput royal court? A. Yes, Lemuel Gulliver becomes a favorite of the Lilliput royal court. Q. Under what condition is Lemuel Gulliver given permission by the king of Lilliput to go around the city? A. Lemuel Gulliver is given permission to go around the city on the condition that he does not harm the Lilliputian subjects. Q. What do the Lilliputians put great emphasis on, as revealed in Gulliver's Travels? A. The Lilliputians put great emphasis on trivial matters. Q. Who are the people that revel in displays of authority and performances of power? A. The Lilliputians are the people who revel in displays of authority and performances of power. Q. How does Gulliver assist the Lilliputians in subduing their neighbors, the Blefuscudians? A. Gulliver assists the Lilliputians in subduing the Blefuscudians by stealing their fleet. Q. Despite assisting the Lilliputians, what does Gulliver refuse to do to the island nation of Blefuscu? A. Gulliver refuses to reduce the island nation of Blefuscu to a province of Lilliput. Q. When Gulliver is convicted and sentenced to be blinded by the Lilliputians, where does he escape to? A. When Gulliver is convicted and sentenced to be blinded by the Lilliputians, he escapes to Blefuscu. Q. In Blefuscu, Gulliver is rescued by a passing ship. What does he carry home with him from Blefuscu? A. Gulliver carries some Lilliputian animals home with him from Blefuscu. Q. How does Gulliver end up visiting Brobdingnag? A. Gulliver visits Brobdingnag when storms cause his sailing ship, the Adventure, to lose its course. As a result, the ship sails towards land in search of fresh water. Gulliver's companions abandon him on a peninsula during this ordeal. Q. What is the height of the grass in Brobdingnag compared to? A. The grass in Brobdingnag is as tall as a tree. Q. In Brobdingnag, who discovers Gulliver and takes him in? A. Gulliver is found by a farmer in Brobdingnag who is approximately 72 feet tall. Q. Who takes care of Gulliver in Brobdingnag? A. The farmer's daughter named Glumdalclitch takes care of Gulliver. Q. Who purchases Gulliver from the farmer in Brobdingnag? A. Gulliver is sold to the Queen of Brobdingnag by the farmer. Q. When the Queen of Brobdingnag acquires Gulliver, what is built for him to move around in? A. The Queen orders the construction of a small house referred to as Gulliver's traveling box, so that he can be carried around. Q. During a seaside trip in Brobdingnag, what happens to Gulliver's traveling box? A. While at the seaside, a giant eagle seizes Gulliver's traveling box, causing him and the box to fall into the sea. He is later rescued by sailors who return him to England. Q. What is the title of Part 3 in Gulliver's Travels? A. Part 3 is titled, A Voyage to Laputa, Balnabarbi, Lugnag, Glubdubdrib and Japan. Q. In Part 3 of Gulliver's Travels, after being attacked by pirates, where does Gulliver end up marooned near? A. Gulliver is marooned near a desolate rocky island close to India after his ship is attacked by pirates. Q. When Gulliver's ship is attacked by pirates and he is marooned close to a desolate rocky island near India, he is rescued by whom? A. Gulliver is rescued by the flying island of Laputa. Q. Rather than using armies, Laputa has a custom of doing what to rebellious cities on the ground? A. Laputa has a custom of throwing rocks down at rebellious cities on the ground. Q. After Laputa, Gulliver tours which kingdom that is ruled from Laputa? A. After Laputa, Gulliver tours Balnibarbi, which is a kingdom ruled from Laputa. Q. In Balnibarbi, great resources and manpower are employed on researching foolish schemes such as extracting sunbeams from what and softening marble for use in pillows. A. In Balnibarbi, great resources and manpower are employed on researching foolish schemes such as extracting sunbeams from cucumbers and softening marble for use in pillows. Q. In Balnibarbi, political conspiracies are uncovered by examining the what of suspicious persons. A. In Balnibarbi, political conspiracies are uncovered by examining the excrement of suspicious persons. Q. Gulliver is then taken to Maldonado, the main port of Balnibarbi, to await a trader who can take him on to where? A. Gulliver is then taken to Maldonado, the main port of Balnibarbi, to await a trader who can take him on to Japan. Q. In Glubbdubdrib, he visits a magician's dwelling and discusses history with whom? A. In Glubbdubdrib, he visits a magician's dwelling and discusses history with the ghosts of historical figures. Q. The ghosts include Julius Caesar, Brutus, Homer, Aristotle, René Descartes, and who else? A. The ghosts include Julius Caesar, Brutus, Homer, Aristotle, René Descartes, and Pierre Gassendi. Q. On the island of Lugnag, Gulliver encounters what? A. On the island of Lugnag, Gulliver encounters the Struldbrugs. Q. Struldbrugs are considered legally dead at what age? A. Struldbrugs are considered legally dead at the age of 80. Q. After arriving in Japan, what does Gulliver request the emperor to do concerning the ceremony imposed on his countrymen involving trampling on the crucifix? A. Gulliver politely asks the emperor to excuse him from participating in the ceremony that requires his countrymen to trample upon the crucifix. Q. In Part 4 of the book, who does Gulliver encounter and interact with? Consisting of a race of horses capable of speech, while the deformed human-like creatures are referred to as Yahoos. A. Gulliver meets the Houyhnhnms, who are a distinguished species of talking horses and serve as the rulers, while the distorted humanoid beings resembling humans are known as Yahoos. Q. Which governing body concludes that Gulliver, being a Yahoo, poses a threat to their civilization and commands him to swim back to the land from where he originally came? A. An assembly of the Houyhnhnms, the ruling body of the talking horses, deems Gulliver, as a Yahoo, to be a peril to their society and orders him to return to his place of origin by swimming. Q. What kind of satire is Gulliver's Travels considered to be in Part 4? A. Gulliver's Travels is widely regarded as an anti-Whig satire in Part 4. Q. Besides the exploration of political systems and human nature, what is the third major theme extensively explored in Gulliver's Travels? A. The third major theme in Gulliver's Travels is a reiteration of the age-old dispute between the ancients versus moderns controversy. Q. What is one of the themes identified by scholars in Gulliver's Travels? A. One of the themes identified by scholars in Gulliver's Travels is misanthropy, which is a general dislike or distrust of humankind. Q. Who is the Portuguese captain who rescues Gulliver in Part 4 of the story? A. In Part 4, the Portuguese captain who comes to Gulliver's aid and rescues him is named Pedro de Mendes. Q. What are the primary settings in Gulliver's Travels? A. The settings in Gulliver's Travels include England and various imaginary nations such as Lilliput, Blefuscu, Brobdingnag, Laputa and Balnibarbi, Lugnag, Glubbdubdrib, and the land of the Houyhnhnms. Q. Who serves as the narrator in Gulliver's Travels? A. The protagonist, Lemuel Gulliver, serves as the narrator of Gulliver's Travels. Q. What can be said about the tone of Gulliver's Travels throughout the story? A. The tone of Gulliver's Travels can be described as consistently satirical and cutting, maintaining a critical and mocking stance throughout the narrative. Q. What are some additional themes explored in Gulliver's Travels? A. Gulliver's Travels delves into various themes, including the struggle between might and right, the conflict between the individual and society, and the exploration of the limitations of human understanding. Q. How was Gulliver's Travels initially published? A. Gulliver's Travels was published anonymously, without Jonathan Swift's name attached to it. Q. What significant prediction did Jonathan Swift make in Gulliver's Travels? A. In Gulliver's Travels, Jonathan Swift predicted the existence of 2 major moons of Mars. Q. Why did Jonathan Swift choose to publish Gulliver's Travels anonymously? A. Jonathan Swift published Gulliver's Travels anonymously because he feared persecution from the government due to its satirical and critical nature. Q. What genre does Gulliver's Travels belong to, and what does it combine? A. Gulliver's Travels is a parody of a travel narrative, combining elements of adventure with savage satire. It effectively mocks English customs and political events of the time. Q. Among the various human societies Gulliver encounters in his travels, which one does he find most appealing? A. Gulliver finds the society of Brobdingnag the most appealing among the human societies he encounters in his travels. Q. Who wrote the famous quote, "Every man desires to live long, but no man wishes to be old," and in which work? A. The quote, "Every man desires to live long, but no man wishes to be old," was written by Jonathan Swift in Gulliver's Travels. Q. How does the King of Brobdingnag describe Europeans in Gulliver's Travels? A. In Gulliver's Travels, the King of Brobdingnag describes Europeans as the most pernicious race of little odious vermin that nature ever suffered to crawl upon the surface of the earth. Q. What does Gulliver argue is his motivation for telling the tale in the conclusion of Gulliver's Travels? A. At the conclusion of Gulliver's Travels, Gulliver argues that his motivation for telling the tale is to inform and instruct mankind. Q. Whom does Gulliver refer to as his cousin in Gulliver's Travels? A. In Gulliver's Travels, Gulliver refers to William Dampier, the famous writer of 2 Voyages, as his cousin. Q. What negative reputation did Jonathan Swift earn as a result of Gulliver's Travels? A. Gulliver's Travels earned Jonathan Swift the unfavorable reputation of being a misanthrope. Q. In Brobdingnag, under what name is Gulliver known? A. In Brobdingnag, Gulliver is known by the name Grildrig. Q. After Gulliver's return from the land of Houyhnhnms, what did he refuse to let his wife and children do? A. After returning from the land of Houyhnhnms, Gulliver refused to allow his wife and children to touch his bread or drink out of his cup. Q. How did the farmer's wife cover Gulliver? A. The farmer's wife covered Gulliver with a handkerchief. Q. What did the farmer's wife give Gulliver for dinner? A. For dinner, the farmer's wife gave Gulliver bread. Q. What did the giants in Brobdingnag carry in their hands? A. The giants in Brobdingnag carried reaping hooks in their hands. Q. What did the farmer make Gulliver do in order to earn money? A. The farmer made Gulliver perform tricks for spectators in order to earn money. Q. Who is Gulliver's main enemy in the royal court of Brobdingnag? A. Gulliver's main enemy in the royal court of Brobdingnag is the dwarf. Q. What human invention did Gulliver propose to the king of Brobdingnag that the king found revolting? A. Gulliver proposed the invention of gunpowder to the king of Brobdingnag, which the king found revolting. Q. What is the role of flappers in Laputa? A. Flappers in Laputa engage people in conversations and keep them entertained. Q. Why do the people of Laputa consider Gulliver to be unintelligent? A. Gulliver is perceived as lacking knowledge and understanding in the fields of music and mathematics. Q. What leads to the government of Legato looking down upon Lord Munodi? A. Lord Munodi is frowned upon by the government of Legato because he relies on traditional methods in the fields of agriculture and architecture, which are considered outdated. Q. Who are Gulliver's closest friends upon his return from his time with the Houyhnhnms? A. Gulliver's closest friends after he comes back from his journey with the Houyhnhnms are two horses. Q. Which adjectives best describe Gulliver's personality in the first 3 voyages? A. Gullible and honest are the adjectives that best describe Gulliver's personality during his first 3 voyages. Q. Is Gulliver's Travels an allegorical and ironical work? A. Yes, Gulliver's Travels is indeed an allegorical and ironical work. Q. What is Gulliver's profession? A. Gulliver is a doctor by profession. Q. What item went unnoticed in Gulliver's pockets? A. The item that remained unnoticed in Gulliver's pockets were his spectacles. Q. In Gulliver's Travels, what do the small endians symbolize? A. In Gulliver's Travels, the small endians represent the Protestants. Q. What did the Lilliputians believe would happen if they continued to feed the giant Gulliver? A. The Lilliputians believed that if they continued to feed Gulliver, they would soon go bankrupt due to the large amount of food required to sustain him. Q. Which historical figure does the Emperor of Lilliput represent? A. The Emperor of Lilliput represents George I, the King of England. Q. Who does the Princess of Lilliput represent in Jonathan Swift's story? A. The Princess of Lilliput represents Queen Anne. Q. In Jonathan Swift's story, what does Lilliput represent? A. Lilliput represents England. Q. In Jonathan Swift's story, what does Blefuscu represent? A. Blefuscu represents France. Q. How long did it take Gulliver to reach Japan in Jonathan Swift's story? A. Gulliver took 3 weeks to reach Japan. Q. What is the most notable trait of Gulliver's personality in Jonathan Swift's story? A. Gulliver's most important traits are his enthusiasm and curiosity. Q. While Gulliver was a misanthrope, who was not in Jonathan Swift's story? A. Jonathan Swift, the author of the story, was not a misanthrope. Q. Among the female characters in Jonathan Swift's story, which one receives the most attention from Gulliver? A. The Queen of Brobdingnag receives the most attention from Gulliver. Q. By the end of the story in Jonathan Swift's book, which loathsome group does Gulliver consider himself a member of? A. By the end of the story, Gulliver considers himself a member of the Yahoos, a loathsome group. Q. In Jonathan Swift's story, what does Gulliver's visits to each society symbolize? A. Gulliver's visits to each society symbolize his longing for community. Q. According to Jonathan Swift's story, which society or group is closest to the Platonic ideal, characterized by reason, honesty, and community? A. The society of the Houyhnhnms is closest to the Platonic ideal, being governed by reason, honesty, and community.